It's the perfect evening, legs propped up, a cold beer in hand, and an ebook sitting beside me, untouched. I'm just lounging, savoring the calm with nothing but a sip of beer needed. This tranquility is a rare and cherished moment, especially when I'm alone. Solitude is exactly what I crave right now. The sun is setting, painting the sky with warm hues, and the sea is as smooth as glass. There's no wind, no noise, just pure serenity. My yacht, Zephyr, is anchored in a quiet bay off a Greek island. It's small but ideal, with no one around and a solid anchorage. Getting the yacht secured was a bit tricky, needing an extra mooring point in the tiny bay, but the manual labor was a refreshing change after a lazy day sailing the Aegean. Now everything is set, the beer is cold, and silence prevails. Yet, my thoughts keep drifting back to Lena, always intruding when I'm idle. It's a struggle I can't seem to shake. I seldom think about the good times we had, doubting their sincerity. I used to consider myself lucky, but now my perspective has changed. Her love appeared genuine, but maybe it was just an act. Anger rises within me, but I push it aside. I focus on the sea, the sun, and the pigeons, simple creatures that are underrated but enjoyable to watch. I decide to double-check the moorings, even though it's probably unnecessary, to distract myself from thoughts of betrayal. I dive into the sea impulsively to clear my head, trying to avoid the rage that's been consuming me lately, and isolating myself to spare others for my outbursts. My sister had warned me I was a ticking time bomb, which is why I've retreated into this hermit lifestyle, choosing a luxury yacht over a cave for my sanity. Back on board, I occupy myself with cooking. Lena's absence in the kitchen mirrors her absence in our relationship. As I focus on making an omelet, I appreciate the solitude of this rarely visited spot, which only adds to its charm. Enjoying a quiet dinner on deck, the tranquility deepens as the daylight fades, with the cliffs glowing in the last rays of the sun. Suddenly, the peace is shattered by the roar of a motor yacht approaching. My serene evening is disrupted by loud, raucous partygoers. It's too late and too dark to escape to another island. As the yacht draws closer, it becomes larger and more imposing, blasting techno music. The man approaching, dressed in a black suit, stands out in this Aegean setting. Shouting over the noise, he identifies the yacht as Dante Moretti's, a name in fashion royalty, and demands that I move my modest boat for their privacy. I find it amusing, refuse to budge, pointing out that this is public property and I was here first. Though irritation bubbles up inside me, I maintain my composure. His attempt to provoke me fails, and he retreats, his mission unaccomplished. I return to my beer until he comes back, offering €1,000 for me to move. I find his offer laughable and dismiss it with a curt remark. He leaves again. Later, their ship relocates to a nearby spot, uncomfortably close. I try to stay calm, treating their spectacle as free entertainment. Their ship looks like a circus, with brightly lit decks and passengers behaving oddly, men preening and women in high heels and bikinis. I wonder what kind of deck they have. High heels on my teak deck would be unacceptable, but they seem standard on this ship, along with the pretentious attitude of its occupants. The men strut around while the women serve as decoration. Their behavior baffles me. They probably think of me as from another planet. Along with peacocks and bikini-clad women, there are men in black suits, obviously bodyguards, and crew members in white uniforms. The models on board, some merely slim and others alarmingly thin, look like they're on the verge of malnutrition. Occasionally, they glance down at me on my boat, underscoring our stark differences. They seem entrenched in their glamorous world, likely seeing themselves as important, hosting influential figures. Meanwhile, I'm just a guy with a beer, though I think my life is better than theirs. I wonder what the women on board are thinking. Maybe they're on the lookout for wealthy partners to secure their status before their careers end at a mere 22. I'm clueless about their world. How long can models work? 20? 30? 40? I have no idea. I reflect on Lena's deceitful plan to marry and then divorce a wealthy man, myself included. Her betrayal still stings deeply, casting a shadow over my life. My current distraction comes from a commotion on a nearby yacht, where a woman is clashing with a group of men, including Bryony, who's easily recognizable as the overweight figure among them. His bodyguard stands nearby, and the tension feels like it's about to erupt into violence. Their sudden awareness of me stops their confrontation, prompting me to offer a casual salute with my beer. They retreat inside, leaving the woman to face the situation alone. Her futile resistance against them elicits no sympathy from the onlookers, shocking me with their cold indifference. Trapped on their boat with no help in sight, she faces their aggression alone. As she tries to escape, the men close in, confident of their dominance. Helpless, she pleads with the other passengers, but they ignore her cries, complicit in her plight. Witnessing their greedy behavior sickens me, and I feel a strong urge to intervene, though I'm unsure how. Despite her desperate pleas, the bystanders remain silent, turning a blind eye to her distress. Just as I consider grabbing my camera, the girl unexpectedly leaps overboard, surprising everyone, including me. Despite the height of the fall, she lands gracefully, even in her high heels. It's a daring move, but it won't save her. There's nowhere for her to go. However, she swims toward me, still elegant, though I'm no longer admiring the sight. She's encroaching on my space now. Should I send her back to those jerks? That's out of the question. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. My only other choice is to let her stay, which means giving up my precious solitude. And worse, I'd have to deal with the company of a woman, something I promised myself I'd never do again. I really don't need a woman around right now, especially one who's probably a model, spoiled, and entitled. I can almost hear her whining already. Are there places on Earth where women are absent? Maybe a monastery? Could I join a Gregorian chant group? Are monks really eunuchs, or do they just seem that way? She's still swimming toward me. Damn it. A damsel in distress. Possible female company. I'm freaking out. It's too late to anchor now, and refusing her boarding isn't an option. She looks like she's in genuine trouble. Fine, I'll take her to the nearest port tomorrow. As she reaches the gangway, I help her aboard, though I'm not about to engage in conversation. Women aren't good for me. I need to keep my distance to avoid getting hurt again. This choice calms me slightly. I refuse to let another woman disrupt my peace after all the effort I've put into restoring it. She looks at me, puzzled, so I offer my hand without a word. I might have a guest, but I'm not interested in chatting. The situation is clear. She knows I saw what happened on Bryony's yacht, and my gesture signals I'm willing to help. Wait, she's still wearing heels as she steps onto my teak deck. I point at her shoes, and she quickly gets the message. Oh, right. Sorry. She apologizes and takes them off. I'm Sofia, by the way. Jake. Damn, just a few seconds in a woman's presence, and I'm already messing up. She extends her hand again. Our first handshake didn't count really, since I was just helping her up. I understand her gesture and shake her hand, a blend of greeting and thanks. As she stands, she's taking her time, subtly asserting her presence in my space, maybe giving me a moment to adjust to her sudden intrusion. It's a thoughtful move after imposing herself on me. I'm curious why someone with any sensitivity would be on that ship, though I'm dreading hearing her story. My new guest, Sofia, is exceptionally beautiful, fitting the profile of one of Brian's entourage. Surprisingly, she's not as young as I thought, probably in her early 20s, just a few years younger than me. Sofia isn't merely attractive, she's stunning, with striking features and captivating green eyes. Despite her slim figure, she doesn't look undernourished like some of the others. Her long, damp hair hides its real color, but it's clearly luscious. Compared to Sofia, Lena seems dull, making me realize how out of my league she really was. A few years ago, I'd have been thrilled by this kind of beauty, but now I'm resolved to keep women out of my life, having prepared myself thoroughly. Lena's betrayal led me to this decision, but I can still admire this woman's beauty, like appreciating a butterfly or a flower. Yet, I keep telling myself she doesn't affect me emotionally. After a moment of sizing her up, she meets my gaze again, thanking me with a hint of shyness, which surprises me. Women like her are supposed to be confident, not timid. They're expected to take what they want and move on. Still, it's clear she really needs my help, and my response is important. I grunt, signaling that I'm not up for a chat. She looks at me, puzzled, then accepts the towel I offer. Eventually, she smiles, probably thinking of me as a grumpy sea dog, which is fine by me. It's not far from the truth. I glance over at the brightly lit ship, where Brian is deep in conversation with his bodyguards. He might be planning to come aboard my yacht to get the girl back. Piracy in Greek waters would be risky, even for someone like Brian, especially for a woman he could easily replace. He's probably used to getting his way in everything, even a game of scissors. But what do I know? I remind myself not to get too involved with these strange characters. I look back to see her watching the scene, her expression now anxious rather than smug. I hope that fat fool doesn't send his goons after us, she mutters. He might. He's got 4 bodyguards he could send our way. Maybe we'll swim away tomorrow, I respond curtly, keeping my tone short to maintain distance. Okay, I'm not going to sleep well tonight. I'm still a bit anxious. Thanks again for saving me, she says. They were about to mistreat me. Her nonchalant attitude about my brief responses surprises me. They? I blurt out, then quickly check my curiosity. Yes, Teresa. His male guests, his bodyguards, and the male crew, she explains. Apparently, he made a bet that he and all the other men on the ship would entertain every girl at least once before they got back to Italy. The other girls weren't thrilled about it, but he let them go along anyway. I, suddenly couldn't take it anymore. Something snapped inside me. I've put up with a lot without any reward. But today, it was too much. Damn it, yes, I refused Dante Brian. And now one small dive and my career is gone. That part of my life is over now. She seems surprised by her own confession, but I give a curt nod and a gruff sound, trying to appear sympathetic. For all the glamour, the fashion industry is total nonsense, she says. Yeah, you've got a point, she adds, though I remain silent. Maybe it's for the best. There's nothing I can do about it now, right? Leave the old baggage behind, try something new. Life's all about change, she says with surprising optimism. How can she brush off something that seemed to shatter her world? I wish I could be that resilient. Or can I? She continues, I'm always hungry. It's part of the job. I've been hungry for 10 years, she laughs. It's oddly charming. Damn, what a woman. No, stop it. Get a grip. To distract myself, I head below deck to whip up some scrambled eggs for her. She follows, glancing around as I hand her a plate of omelets. It's surprisingly hard to keep my stern demeanor with her around, but I have to. I can't let myself get attached. I'm sure nothing good will come of it. Oh yes, this looks delicious. Thanks. Do you live here alone? She asks. I nod, trying to keep our interactions minimal to avoid being swayed by her upbeat attitude. Do you have any clothes I could borrow? I didn't get a chance to pack, she asks, her smile still dazzling. I nod again and fetch some clothes from my aft cabin. I can't maintain a scowl when faced with that smile for too long. Take one of the forward cabins, I say, handing her the clothes. Thank you. Are all the cabins free? She asks. I nod once more. Why does a man like you live all alone? How do you keep women at a distance? She probes. What? The shock on my face makes her laugh melodically before she softens. Forget it. I'm going to change. It's a bit chilly in this wet bikini, she says, her smile warmer than a designer mannequin's. She turns and heads forward, leaving me to watch her go. She's just as striking from behind. I shake my head, trying to make sense of her words. Lena always said I was just an average guy, not special or attractive. She claimed I was lucky to have her, and I believed her. Now this stunning woman, a genuine model, is asking how I keep women at bay. I guess I have a moment to ponder this as she changes. 2 minutes later, she emerges, making my old, worn sweatpants look surprisingly good. As a model, she changes quickly, unlike Lena who took her time. I find it amusing to think about a woman dressing swiftly. Hey, you might have a friendly face. I don't think you're as much of a grump as you're pretending to be, she says, almost coaxing a smile from me. It's kind of working. As her hair dries and reveals her brunette locks, I silently scold myself. Would you mind if I stayed below deck? I don't want to remind Dante I'm here, she asks. I reply, realizing my attempt at brevity sounds ridiculous even to me. Okay, see you tomorrow. Mind if I borrow your ebook reader, she continues. I nod again, glad to retreat to my quarters and enjoy my solitude. The early morning finds me on deck, grumpy as ever. My only companion, a cup of coffee, doesn't seem to care. I could stay in bed, but thoughts of Lena would haunt me. Even without her, I find solace in my gloomy mood, reflecting on how life dealt me a rough hand with Lena. The noise from Brian's vessel stopped around 4 in the morning, and now it's like a ghost ship. They probably won't stir until noon. But wait, I hear movement below deck. My unexpected guest seems set on shattering the mental image I've built of her. She's over 20, not bulimic, and surprisingly down-to-earth despite my gruffness. And now she's an early riser. What next? A certified mechanic? Morning, she says, popping up from the hatch. Morning, I reply, likely with my usual scowl. Coffee, galley? I asked. She disappears below deck. She's just as sharp in the morning, though much more pleasant to look at. I turn to the bay, its calm surface now tainted by thoughts of Lena and her lover mocking me. Damn it. I sense my uninvited guest emerging on deck. Now that she's had her coffee, she'll be cheerful and ready to chat about topics I couldn't care less about. And she'll flash that gorgeous mannequin smile. I don't need anyone trying to lift my spirits. I want to wallow in solitude. Don't I have that right, Sofia? Her name catches me off guard again. Without a word, she sits beside me on the deck, gazing out at the calm sea. The morning air remains crisp, untouched by the blistering Greek sun. Everything feels surreal with her presence. All I see now is the endless expanse of the sea. Lena has vanished. Silence envelopes us until she breaks it with a sudden question. So what's the deal? You saved me. What do I owe you? Her demeanor shows a hint of worry, as if bracing for bad news. Has everyone who helped you before wanted something in return? I blurt out, regretting my bluntness. I don't need to dive into her past, but her question catches me off guard. Yeah, pretty much, I confirm. Well, your life must be pretty crappy then, she remarks. Yeah, right, I respond, knowing that any woman as beautiful as her would have men lining up to do her favors. Yes, she replies, her expression serious, her pretty face looking utterly miserable. I glance at her, then look away, unsure of how to respond. The silence stretches uncomfortably between us. It suddenly hits me that leaving before Brian and his crew wake up might be the best course of action. Is there anything you need from the ship? I ask softly, surprising myself with the gentleness in my voice. No, she replies firmly, as though she's letting go of her old life in high fashion and all its trappings. I nod and start preparing to leave. I hope she won't insist on helping, but she stays by the rail, silently watching the sea. Does she simply prefer solitude, or has she sensed my need for it? Either way, she seems to understand me better than I'd like. I tidy up the galley and get to work. I coil and stow the mooring lines with practiced ease. Setting the anchor will be noisy and time-consuming, but it's unavoidable. Sofia watches with a look of concern as the noise increases, her eyes fixed on Brian's yacht. With no wind, I start the diesel engine, aiming to put some distance between us and Brian's boat before the anchor's clatter disturbs anyone on board. As we glide away, Sofia visibly relaxes. Surprisingly, she looks even more radiant now, a sight I hadn't anticipated. She sits beside me, calm and content, while I steer. As Brian's vessel fades from view, I grow tired of the diesel engine's drone. I hoist the sails and turn off the engine. Ah, the blissful quiet, just the wind, the waves, and the sails. I furl the sails and return to the helm. Once again, we settle into a comfortable silence. I steal glances at her from time to time. She sits peacefully, gazing out at the sea. With Brian out of sight, she appears serene, as if nothing else matters. It's odd, I think. She doesn't seem like someone who's just left behind a coveted career. If Lena were in her place, though that would be impossible, she'd be anything but serene. Lena would be anxious, demanding. But Sofia? Yes, Sofia. Except, what if Sofia sees me as just another person to support her in the lifestyle she's used to, simply because I let her come aboard? Maybe that's why she seems so unbothered. Oh, hell. I groan inwardly. Henry Higgins had a point. Invite a woman into your life, and peace of mind vanishes. I'm done with that, once and for all. I glance at her again. She's turned away, watching the sunlit ocean, looking utterly innocent. Of course, I remind myself. She's a model, or rather, a former model. They can adopt any facade they want. I shift my gaze to the sails and then to the starboard. What's her game? My thoughts are interrupted. Hold on. How does she know about that? I stare at her in confusion. Well, damn. The morning was almost perfect, and now she's ruining it. Nothing. Just an average guy, right? Good-looking, well-off, sailing solo on a fancy yacht, trying to hide his kindness behind grunts. Handsome? I spot her first flaw: she definitely needs glasses. It's a discussion for another time. Thanks, she says, breaking my train of thought. Am I that transparent? Yes, you are, I admit, throwing my head back in exasperation. She giggles, and I can't help but grin. Damn it, playing hard to get isn't going as planned. All right, I'll bite. What's my next move? I ask. She even blushes a little. I'm not sure what you're going to say, she says, taking a deep breath and meeting my gaze. I know you're trying to keep your distance and stay quiet. You've been hurt badly. Your instinct is to withdraw and keep everyone at arm's length to avoid getting hurt again. It's normal, even animals do it. But sooner or later, you need to start moving forward. You walk and talk, but you're still wary, especially with women. By isolating yourself, you're only keeping your pain company. Each time you dwell on your wounds instead of engaging with others, you let them hurt you again. Your pain isn't getting better, it's just getting worse. And you don't even get sympathy because you've cut yourself off from everyone. Her words catch me off guard. I imagined she was just another pretty face, but now she's offering insight. I envision myself enduring in dignified solitude, cutting myself off so no one, especially not a woman, could cause me the same pain Lena did. But what if I'm just brooding? Sofia seems to read my thoughts. I get it. But what if you're letting the pain control you? Maybe you should talk about it. And if you're open to it, I'm willing to share my own story. It might help you see things differently. I'm surprised by her offer. It seems she's not trying to pry into my past or dredge up Lena's pain. It's unsettling, but what if her experience was worse than mine and she handled it better? I ponder her offer. The thought of opening up to this fascinating stranger from a completely different world is daunting. What would become of me if I did? She interrupts my ruminations, her presence a mix of calm and intrigue. Silence settles in again. Her grin is like that of a mischievous child, so infectious that I almost smile back, but I catch myself. No attachments, I remind myself. Don't let her draw you in. Too late. Her smirk catches me off guard. Damn, she's got me again. I'd better tread carefully. Gradually, her smile fades, and her gaze shifts to the horizon. Her voice turns steady and monotone, as if she's reciting a well-rehearsed speech. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew me. Other kids were smarter or more talented, but I was the one everyone expected to make it big, to be famous. You know, when all you can do is look pretty, that's a modeling career. I quickly learned I was at the bottom of the ladder. It wasn't like being a princess in my small town. For the first time, I was told I wasn't good enough. Time after time, in the harshest terms, I was reminded that I wasn't up to standard. It really takes a toll, hearing that over and over. She pauses, her eyes pleading for empathy as she turns back to the horizon. Like many models, I started to see my body as separate from myself. It was almost like a tool or a skill set. I did everything to keep it in shape: exercise, diet, you name it. But still, I fell short. I was never chosen. Then I saw that the directors favored girls they were familiar with. Those who socialized with them or their higher-ups. Socializing often meant sleeping with them. No matter the director's gender, it seemed to be the norm. I resisted at first, but the pressure of unemployment became too much, so I gave in. It wasn't terrible. Most were considerate, even kind. I had grown used to viewing my body as a separate entity. I used it to get a job, and eventually, I landed one. Everyone back home celebrated seeing me in catalogs and ads. I felt burdened by their hopes and dreams. Despite knowing I wouldn't reach the top and growing to despise my life, I pushed on. I empathized with girls in abusive relationships. I'm not sure what changed. I've been on Bryony's cruises before and knew what to expect. But for some reason, I had had enough. I hid in my cabin until the thugs dragged me out. You saw the rest. She looks at me, her eyes meeting mine with a vulnerable honesty. They didn't think I'd dare to jump. Maybe I wouldn't have, but your boat was close, and I overheard your confrontation earlier. I was terrified last night, worried that Bryony would send his thugs after me. I was relieved just to be a disposable beauty for once. I wonder if I messed up their bet. She smiles at the thought. I smile back, trying to lift her spirits. It's still hard to believe that some might only see you as a pretty face, I say, feeling a pang of sympathy. I'm done with that life, she says, her resolve clear. It's over now. The village will need to find someone else to celebrate. So what if I'm jobless and broke? I've survived worse. I'll never sell my body again or let others decide my worth. I don't know what's next, but whatever it is, it'll be better because I'm free. Her grin is so radiant that it takes me by surprise. So now you think I'm a courtesan, she teases, her eyes sparkling like stars. What can I even say to that? Thankfully, she seems used to leaving men speechless with her charm. I fumble through some vague comments about choice and honesty, hoping she'll steer the conversation in a different direction. You know, she says, in a way, I'm a maid. I'm stunned. She laughs again, and I find myself enjoying the sound. Remember when I said I began to see my body as separate from my heart, the real me? Yes, men and women used my body. And yes, sometimes I found pleasure in it. But I never truly made love. I never shared my heart. She gazes at me with earnest eyes. All I ever wanted was what my mother had, a peaceful life with a loving partner and a home full of affection. For a while, I lost sight of that, but not anymore. Her determination and optimism make me feel inadequate. I retreat below deck to gather my emotions, returning with 2 glasses of chilled Sauvignon Blanc. We toast to her future, and it strikes me that it's not just her physical beauty that captivates me but her essence. I suppose it's my turn to share, I say, hoping to distract myself. Absolutely, she replies, still smiling. I'm eager to hear your story. Am I really that transparent? I wonder. Yes, you are, she confirms, still smiling. Well, let's dive in, I say. I met Lena on my first day of school. Some bullies were picking on her, so I stepped in. We became close, with her helping me academically and me protecting her. Money didn't matter when we were kids. We were inseparable. Lena grew into a popular beauty, and she didn't want me defending her from boys anymore. Despite our friendship, people, even my mom, thought she was out of my league. Your mother, Sofia's voice carries a hint of horror. That's awful and wrong, maybe, I admit, but it still affects me. Even now, your mom must have been mistaken or confused, she suggests. Hey, don't speak ill of my mother, I warn, though Sofia sees through my facade and laughs. I join in before continuing. We went to the same university. Lena reached out, reminiscing about feeling safe with me and hinting that I had a chance with her. I was thrilled and proposed. She said yes, but my happiness was shattered when I found her in bed with another man. I didn't confront them directly. I just retreated to my office, nursing my wounds. I continue, reflecting on the past. Sofia nods, expecting me to agree with her unspoken understanding. She cried, apologized, and promised faithfulness. I relented because I wanted her back. So, you forgave her? Sofia asks. Yes, I did, I affirm. I might have forgiven one mistake, but she didn't keep her word. Sofia ponders this for a moment. Did she have money when you married? No, I reply. Why? You mentioned she went after your money post-divorce. Just a thought, she says. What if she saw your wealth as power in the relationship? Maybe she felt insecure. I loved her, cared for her, I protest. Why insecure? Maybe dependent is a better word, Sofia suggests. Perhaps her cheating was a way to shift the power dynamics and make you reliant on her. Are you excusing her? I ask, my tone slightly defensive. No, she replies firmly. Breaking promises like that has no excuse. But I think of you, trapped, not in pain but not happy. To move on, you need to understand her cruelty. How do you know all this? I ask, feigning sarcasm, though I can tell she's sincere. I don't know. I guess I just empathize, she admits, her smile tinged with sadness. Go ahead. What happened next? I take a deep breath, preparing to recount the downfall of my world. It started with a seemingly ordinary snooker night, disrupted by a power outage. Instead of joining my friends for drinks, I chose a quiet evening at home with Lena. When I walked into our apartment, I was greeted by a candlelit ambience and soft music, a gesture of shared indulgence. However, as I prepared candles for the bathtub, I stumbled upon a scene I never expected. Lena and a man were exchanging kisses amid the bubbles. I stood there, stunned, unsure of how to react. Eventually, I cleared my throat to get their attention. They turned, unfazed, and greeted me with smiles. Ben, the man, introduced himself warmly. It was in that soapy embrace that the reality of my marriage's end hit me hard. I fought back tears, overwhelmed by the sight. They reassured me that their love for me hadn't changed, that the situation was inconsequential. Lena even suggested continuing the affair, claiming she cared for both of us. Stunned into silence, I struggled to grasp what was happening. Lena smiled, completely unfazed. Jake, she said matter-of-factly, I've realized I love two men. Ben's accepted it, and I know you will too when you see how happy we all are. I'll still be with you most of the time, but now that you know, I'll spend some nights with Ben when you're out with friends. You won't even notice. And when we start a family, Ben will use protection to ensure the kids are yours. Right, Ben? Ben eagerly agreed, nodding along. Lena insisted our marriage would be stronger this way. What about your promise to be faithful? I interjected. Oh, that, she brushed off. I was a bit hasty with that promise. Besides, I hadn't met Ben yet. Does that justify breaking your promise? I asked, struggling to hold my composure. Jake, don't be melodramatic, she retorted. Think about it. Ben and I have been seeing each other for over 2 months now. Has your love for me diminished? No. In fact, you've enjoyed better lovemaking since I've been with Ben. He's different from you, spontaneous and unpredictable. But you're still the better lover because you know me so well. It shouldn't be a problem unless you make it one. Her lack of remorse was striking. She seemed to demand that I accept her betrayal. As I looked at her and Ben, both smiling together, the pain in my heart grew. What if I don't agree? I asked. Her smile now had a hint of reproach. I hate to say this, Jake, but you need to know the consequences. If you divorce me over this, I'll protect Ben and myself. I'll make sure I get at least half of everything you own. I hope it doesn't come to that, but I'll do what I have to. She softened her tone. Remember, I've loved you since we were kids. The choice shouldn't be difficult. You can keep enjoying what you have or risk losing me and half your assets. With warm smiles, she and Ben invited me to accept the situation. I must have looked utterly bewildered, like a cartoon character hit with a brick. Ben even chimed in, inviting me to join them. Lena playfully urged me to stay, blowing water at me and kissing Ben on the nose. I'm done, I said, walking away. Their soft chatter followed me out, but I was too consumed by the shock to pay attention. I packed an overnight bag and left. It wasn't until I was alone in a hotel room later that I fully processed what had happened. I cried, cursed, and pounded the mattress in frustration. When I woke up, Lena was no longer the woman I loved, she was my enemy. Protecting my assets became my priority, even if I didn't need the money. It was a matter of principle, not wanting to reward her betrayal. I had an advantage she didn't know about. My wealth wasn't truly mine, it came from a trust fund set up by my shrewd grandfather. He had a cynical view of women and devised a plan. I would receive a monthly allowance until I turned 40 or after my first divorce, at which point the full fortune would be mine. Legally, I had almost no assets when Lena ended our marriage. Ironically, the divorce was meant to make me wealthy. I consulted a family lawyer immediately. He assured me that the worst-case scenario would be minimal alimony for a short period. Reluctantly, I accepted this outcome. He handled the legalities, ensuring Lena couldn't flee, and initiated the divorce process. He predicted things would get interesting once Lena faced the new reality. Meanwhile, I found a nice apartment and moved my essentials. For a week, Lena didn't reach out. Then, she sent a message asking if I'd gotten over my hurt feelings and was ready to come home. I didn't respond. Despite her declarations of love, she didn't seem to miss me. 2 weeks later, the floodgates opened. Lena's texts and calls became relentless. It seemed her lawyer had informed her that her financial expectations wouldn't be met. Her messages varied from professing her undying love and claiming there had been misunderstandings, to urging me to be brave. After all, she reasoned, if Ben could tolerate the situation, why couldn't I? Then, everything screeched to a halt. A few days later, Lena's lawyer presented a postnuptial agreement, claiming I had signed it. It supposedly entitled her to $20,000 a month for life in the event of a divorce. However, handwriting experts discredited Lena's claim. They even tried to accuse me of domestic violence, but failed to provide any evidence. In the end, we settled for what we had proposed, $2,000 a month for a year plus legal fees. I walked away victorious, but felt hollow. I avoided women, retreating into isolation. I'm leaving, I announce, breaking the silence between us. Sofia remains quiet, her gaze distant. I glance at her and see tears streaming down her face. You know what, I think. She's still beautiful. I'm deeply sorry, Jake, Sofia says, her voice trembling. I understand your pain. Strangely, recounting the ordeal seems to lighten my burden, though I wasn't aware of it at the time. Jake, she continues, her voice taking on a stronger, more resolute tone. You can't continue like this. She's not worth your life. She never cared about your happiness. You're letting her drag you down. I flinch at the intensity of her words. Sofia pauses, giving me a moment to reflect. So, you're a hermit now? She asks, her playful smile returning along with a glint of mischief in her eyes. Yeah, I suppose so, I admit. Yesterday, I might have embraced that label with pride. Today, I'm not so sure. At least you're not one of those bushy-bearded types, she teases. Thankfully, no, I reply, chuckling despite myself. Promise me you'll move past this soon, Sofia urges gently. You need to start living again. Her caring tone resonates deeply with me. I nod, unable to find the right words. Good, she says, her smile warm. Now that we've settled that, I'm going to catch some sun. She gracefully rises and heads to the bow of the boat, her smile teasing but inviting. I join her, marveling at the view. Did people really tell her she wasn't pretty enough? I think, shaking my head in disbelief. Sofia, settled near the mast and using my sweatpants as a cushion, exudes a natural beauty that's hard to ignore. It's clear there's more to her than meets the eye. Her kindness feels genuine, a rare quality. I'm struck by how well she understands me, even though we've known each other for less than a day. Is she right about me? I wonder. Should I abandon my isolation? As I watch Sofia embrace life with an eagerness that contrasts sharply with my own fears, her attitude is contagious. Being around her makes me reconsider my stance. She seems out of my league, yet her presence brings a sense of possibility. My gaze lingers on Sofia's smooth skin and nearly exposed figure. Damn, she caught my eye even with those sunglasses on, I think. Maybe models do have a sixth sense about these things, so, where are we headed? She asks casually. Naxos, I reply. So, this is where you were planning to leave me, she teases, rolling onto her back and removing her sunglasses. No, I wasn't going to leave you, I stammer. It's not like I want to, she laughs, and I find myself smiling in response. Sorry, Jake, she says, her tone playful. I shouldn't tease you so much. I just miss having someone to have fun with, I nod, willing to forgive her teasing. But a nagging voice in my head reminds me of women's capabilities. No, Jake, I'm not, Sofia says softly, sensing my discomfort. You don't need to worry about that. I wonder if I can really read her. What's happening here? I ask. So, will I be leaving the boat on Naxos? No, unless you want to or need to, she says, her voice sincere. But you don't have to if you don't want to. Oh, crack, I think. You can stay as long as you like, she adds, enjoying my flustered reaction. I really like having you here. I take a deep breath. I was planning to stop there anyway for supplies, and you might want to get some clothes. That's my plan, she says. What's the matter, sailor? Not enjoying the view? She poses like a model, teasing me. I smile as she laughs, then she becomes serious. I don't have money or debit cards right now, and I might not be able to pay you back immediately, I say, pretending to think as I approach her. Maybe I'll find a way for you to repay me. I keep a serious face, making her look apprehensive. How are your knots? I ask, still serious. She hesitates. What's with the knots? She asks, her voice trembling slightly. Sailor's knots, I reply. Zephyr doesn't sail herself. Since you're here, you might as well help, she laughs and playfully slaps my arm. I got you, didn't I? We sit together on the foredeck, and I teach her some knots while the sail provides shade from the Greek sun. It's hot, so I remove my shirt. Occasionally, we exchange glances and smiles. It's strange to have someone like her look at me that way, but not so strange that I can't get used to it that I hadn't felt this relaxed around a woman in a long time. We spent some time practicing trimming the foresail, and I was pleasantly surprised by how athletic Sofia was. Watching her move was a pleasure. In her bikini, she helped me unmoor Zephyr, making us the envy of everyone at the waterfront. She followed my instructions with ease, proving she was far from just another pretty face. Later, we went into town. Sofia borrowed my sweatpants and we stopped at the bank first. As expected, she couldn't access her accounts without proper ID, so she used my funds for shopping. I half expected her to indulge in a stereotypical shopping spree, but she surprised me by picking out a few sundresses, shorts, and tops, asking for my advice on footwear. Her choices were tasteful and well-made. While she shopped for undergarments, I gathered groceries and supplies. When we met up again in the town square, we both had our arms full of purchases. I couldn't help but grin as I watched her, now in a light sundress, looking stunning under the midday sun. Surely half of Naxos was envious of me. We boarded the boat, stowed our purchases, and relaxed. Sofia's beauty never ceased to amaze me. Every time I thought I'd gotten used to it, she'd surprise me with a new look or demeanor. Thank you, Jake, she said, her eyes warm. I'll repay you with my savings, maybe hold on to them until you find a job or something, I suggested. Well, maybe, she said with a soft smile. But I don't like owing friends. Her words hit me deeply. We're friends, she reiterated. Friends help each other, like you did for me last night, even when you didn't want to. We both acknowledged the truth in her statement. Friends don't hurt each other. And no matter what, Jake, I won't hurt you. Never, is that so? I asked, curious. Yeah, she said. You know, I haven't felt this at ease with someone in a long time. No expectations, no pressure. Just friends. When was the last time you felt that way? I asked. Sofia smiled. You're feeling comfortable with me too. One more thing, she added. You know how I always seem to know what you're thinking. How can I read you? You're the only person I can do that with, she said, a hint of wonder in her voice. Damn, I said, trying to feign disappointment. I was hoping you could read everyone like that and we could rule the world. We both laughed, and Sofia gazed at me with a twinkle in her eye. So, friend, she said, what are the plans for tonight? The word friend slipped out before I could stop it, but it felt right. I'm not much of a planner, I said. Good, she said with a smile. Because I have a plan, and it's perfect. You're taking me to that nice seafood place we spotted, and we'll have a wonderful dinner together, and then? I asked. After dinner, we'll head back to the boat, and I'll fill you in on the rest, she said. We dined at a charming seafood spot. I briefly worried if Sofia might feel out of place, but the restaurant's reputation reassured me. Despite the stares, Sofia remained unperturbed. We enjoyed a leisurely meal, and the owner's visits felt more like genuine hospitality than mere curiosity. The fresh seafood was delightful, and I was surprised to find myself enjoying the evening. As we walked hand in hand along the waterfront before returning to Zephyr, Sofia's kiss was gentle and filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Jake," she whispered. "I can't remember the last time I enjoyed a night so much." She glanced away briefly to hide her tears. When she turned back, she flashed a mischievous smile. "So, ready for the rest of the plan?" "Yeah, I suppose," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. She chuckled, arching an eyebrow. "Sure about that?" Her earlier words echoed in my mind. "Promise me you'll start living again, Jake." "Okay, I'm game," I said, adopting a confident stance with my hands on my hips. "What's the deal? Is this where you seduce me?" Sofia's eyes widened in surprise. "Seduce you?" "No, that's not on the agenda." "Huh?" I responded, confused. "We're going to make love," she declared, her eyes serious but her smile warm and inviting. I felt myself falling for her. "Sofia, you could have anyone." "Why me?" I asked. "We're falling for each other," she replied softly. "Haven't you noticed?" Panic gripped me again. "Jake, I'm not Lena. I could never hurt you like she did," she assured me, her tone earnest. Without another word, she pulled me close for a kiss. It was incredible, almost magical, like nothing I had ever experienced. When we parted, I noticed tears in her eyes. To my surprise, my own eyes were moist as well. Our connection felt almost overwhelming. Sofia stood up, still holding my shirt tightly, and pulled me towards my quarters with urgency. She gently pushed me onto the bed. "You're so beautiful," I managed to say, still processing what had just happened. "Why me?" "Was it my wealth?" She looked at me, her gaze steady. Sofia's face was a picture of satisfaction. "No, Jake. I love you, not your money. Don't get me wrong, money's helpful, but using a man for it repulses me," she explained. "All right, I'll sign anything." "A prenup?" I suggested, trying to lighten the mood. "A prenup? Well, why not? Just in case we ever tie the knot," she said with a sly grin. I couldn't help but chuckle at the thought. It seemed like my destiny was already set. "Well, it could be worse," I said, trying to shake off the uncertainty. "Am I crazy?" "And even if you hadn't thought about it," she added, "I'm on birth control pills. You're actually the first guy I've been with without protection. So you're in the clear." "Wow, what a fool I've been," I muttered, feeling a mix of embarrassment and relief. Sofia laughed. "You're too kind, Jake. We need to figure out our next move. The home port of this ship is on Antibes, though I'm not sure that's what you meant." "Okay, do you have a car there?" I asked. "Yes, a big X5, she replied. "All right, so it's one of those SUVs, right? We'll drive to Milan from there. If you're okay with it, we can swing by and grab my stuff, the remnants of my old life," I suggested. "Sure thing. Plus, it's pretty much on the way to Germany," she agreed. "All right, we're going to have a blast. I've got a lot of work ahead, and I'm looking forward to it," I said. "Your job?" she asked. "Yeah, I've got to convince this guy that good women are out there," I explained. "Oh, so you're opening up to the female population again?" she teased. "What, are you joking?" I replied. "Absolutely not. My motives are purely selfish," she admitted with a grin. I might come off as a bit blunt. The next 4 weeks sailing back to Antibes were idyllic, filled with endless lovemaking, sun-soaked days, and culinary delights. We deliberately avoided discussing the future, our past, or anything that could remind us of the reality awaiting us. We focused only on enjoying the present. When we finally arrived in Antibes, packing up the boat and loading my car was done in silence. Both of us were dreading the return to reality. The drive back to Milan and then Germany was tense, with unspoken fears hanging over us. I feared losing her again, having fallen deeply in love, while she seemed distant. Back in my apartment, the spark we shared on the yacht seemed to fade, replaced by an underlying tension. Despite the satisfying closeness, we both felt a strain. I considered returning to the yacht to salvage our relationship but was unsure how to prevent its demise. As we sat watching TV, I found her snuggled against me, reminding me of her allure. Just as I contemplated retreating to the bedroom, the doorbell rang, interrupting our thoughts. Sofia still refused to answer the door or phone in my apartment, which bothered me because it signaled her discomfort here. All right, Sofia, I'll get it, I said. Thank you, she replied. I opened the door to find my nightmare standing there. Lena, dressed to the nines, looked stunning but sinister. Oh, honey, you've finally arrived, she exclaimed, rushing over to me. I felt a wave of revulsion. Unfazed by my lack of response, Lena stepped back, observing me. My, don't you look radiant. Been soaking up the sun, she complimented. Thank you, I replied, my voice tight. Aren't you going to invite me in? Lena asked. Please come in, Lena, Sofia said from behind me. I was still trying to figure out how to handle the situation and stepped aside. Thank you, Lena said as she entered. And you? She turned to Sofia. I'm Sofia, Sofia replied. I'm aware, Lena responded coolly. What a peculiar exchange, I thought as I closed the door. Their voices turned sharp, filled with tension. If words were blades, the room would have been drenched in blood. Please have a seat, Lena, Sofia offered. Thank you, Lena said stiffly, taking a seat. So, you're a friend of Jake's? Sofia asked. I'm his girlfriend, Lena declared. Getting paid for this? Sofia's tone was accusatory. Are you insinuating I'm a courtesan? Lena shot back. Well, let's not be too hard on ourselves. You're not unattractive. Jake's quite wealthy. I wouldn't suspect prostitution, but perhaps some form of escort service, Lena suggested. No, I wouldn't want to intrude on your affairs, Sofia said, trying to keep her composure. What? That's absurd. So you're not with him for his money? Lena probed. No, absolutely not. It was a misunderstanding during his messy divorce. We belong together. I truly love him, Sofia asserted. Me too, Lena retorted. Honey, let's face it. Jake's a decent guy, but he's on a different level in terms of appearance. I won't buy for a second that you're here for love. All right, darling, let's talk about levels. I'm certainly not on yours, Sofia said. Oh, come on, don't overstate yourself, Lena scoffed. Not true. You're decent looking, but I'm model material, Sofia countered. Now, let's talk about Jake. He's handsome, built like a tank, honest, open, and caring. He's a rare find. I'd love to have him. If he proposed, I'd marry him without hesitation. Really? I asked, utterly shocked. You're just after his money, you cow, Sofia accused. No, I'd happily sign any prenup, Lena insisted. Really? I asked again, incredulous. Absolutely, Lena affirmed. You fool. What do you think I've been waiting for all this time? Sofia questioned. Why do you think I've been so on edge since we left the boat? Lena hesitated. What? Jake, please don't, Sofia pleaded. That woman, Sofia, is no good for you. You need me, Lena said. I was in a daze but couldn't believe my luck. I slowly rose and approached Sofia. Sofia, will you? I began to ask. Jake, someone's grabbing my shoulder, Sofia said, trying to stop me. I barely noticed, lost in the moment. It felt like a dream. I had been expecting Sofia to leave me for good over the past 4 weeks. Now that she was back in Germany, could I really have her? Yes, I will, I said, feeling a rush of exhilaration. Sofia, please marry me. Yes, Sofia said with a beaming smile. No, Lena finally released my shoulder. Sofia leaped into my arms. Yes, damn it. This can't be real, Jake, don't do this, Lena pleaded. Really? Really? I repeated. Yes, I exclaimed. Jake, Lena said finally. I thought you'd never ask. I was so scared, I silenced Sofia with a kiss, overwhelmed by emotion. Looks like my presence is no longer required, Lena said, her voice tinged with bitterness. Jake, I could have been so good for you, but instead you chose that woman and let her tear you apart. You're right, Lena, I said. What? You're not needed here anymore. I'm glad you came. This is the best thing that could have happened to us. The best thing you have ever done for me. I've forgiven you. It doesn't matter anymore. But if you'll excuse us, we have some things to finalize, I said firmly. Sofia, don't touch him, Lena warned. Okay, I won't, Sofia replied. Not like me, Sofia and I exchanged surprised glances as Lena headed for the door. We turned towards the other door, the bedroom. I felt like I had finally changed, and I had to thank Dante, Teresa, and Lena for making this dream possible.